what that video reminds me of? Anybody watch This Old House back in the day? Anybody watch that? Yeah, some of y'all think like Chip and Joanna Gaines invented shiplap and barn doors. No. That was it Norm Abrams? Norm Abrams. Listen, he made barn doors in a barn on PBS. Anyway, hey, you guys good? You guys good? Who had a good Thanksgiving? Anybody had a good Thanksgiving? Hey, who went completely off the rails on your diet on Thanksgiving? Anybody? I went way off the rails. Today's the first day since Thursday that I'm not wearing elastic-waisted pants. That's true. Anyway, hey, if this is your first time here, my name is Joel. I'm so pumped that you're in the basement with us. And wasn't the worship set amazing today? Man, like, I don't think we give the band enough credit sometimes. Like, when the video was going on, like, Bo passed me and I just kind of, like, patted him on the back. My man was sweating. I mean, you're right there. Like, he's getting into it. Like, I'm just so thankful for the band. And anyway, I'm thankful for you guys. Thankful for everybody who is online. What's up, YouTubers, Facebookers, podcasters, Spotify listeners? Listen, if people are listening to us on Spotify right now, you know what that means? They're old school, and they're listening to us over the new Adele album. That's big. And so, if you're like an Adele person, hello, it's me. I'm sorry. It's my best Adele. It's terrible. But could you just show some love to our online family right now? Make up for that bad whatever I just did. Love you guys. We're going to start out a little different today, if that's okay with you. Normally, I like to start out by like bringing us all together. You know, so I'll say something like, who likes food? Yeah. Who hates traffic? We do. Who can't stand the Cowboys? We can. Okay, like just like stuff we can all agree on, right? Okay, I normally like to get us together from the start of the message, but I'm going to split us up right out of the gate, all right? Because there's two different types of people in the room. And you're one of the different types of people, okay? We have those of us who are under 40. And we got the rest of you all right? That's what we got. I think you're called a boomer if you're over 40. Is that boomer? No. So, all right. So I know I'm like you guys are gonna probably beat me after this, but we're gonna kind of figure out who is under 40 and who is 40 and over. And so, where are my under 40s at? If you're under 40s, you raise your hand. These are the boomer juniors. We're the ones who didn't know what this old house is. You put your hand down. You're not under 40. Okay. All right, now, who is 40 plus? Just raise your hand and say, Pastor, you better watch it. You better watch it. Look at this. A lot of you all. Okay, a lot of boomers. You're the ones who, you look at your phone and you're like, wait, this is a camera too? How does this work? All right, I'm in a lot of trouble here, but let me give you a little peace offering if you're over 40. All right, if you're over 40, my birthday is Wednesday. I'm turning 39. I got one more year being a boomer junior. All right, I think when I'm 40, I think that's when I start getting a discount on my McDonald's coffee and I become a bad driver. Isn't that how it works? Is that no? Anyway, so if you are like near 40 or over, you're going to get what I'm about to say. If you are under, like way under 40, if you're a Gen Zer and you got a fidget spinner, you're going to be totally confused, okay? But when I was growing up, if I were sitting in my living room watching TV, all right, and by the way, when I was growing up, how many channels did we have back in the day, people? 3. Somebody said 12. No, 3. And you were the remote control. So when Dad said, hey, we need to watch Walter Cronkite, all right, I had to get up, switch to the dial. Okay, so we had 3 channels. And so when I was growing up, I'd be sitting in my living room watching TV. And when you would hear this at the door when you were growing up, you didn't know who was at the door. We didn't have a video doorbell. Like nowadays there's, videos on our phone, but back in the day, the only video device there was a giant camcorder. Weighed like 89 pounds, and you had to rest it on your shoulder. This is why all the ladies had shoulder pads in their shirts back in the day. We didn't have that, okay, but back in the day, you didn't know who was at the door. So when you heard this, when I was a kid, what'd you do? You jumped up and you ran to the door. Like the whole family ran to the door. It was like a big event, right? You ran to the door. And then it didn't matter who was at the door. It could be your neighbor. It could be the mailman. It could be, crazy Uncle Eddie. You'd just be like, oh my gosh. Come on in. Just come on in. Get crazy Uncle Eddie. You want a tab? You want a Tang? You want a Snapple? What do you want? Okay. And so you would let them in, and you would sit around the table and you would welcome them into the house. But nowadays, if you're sitting in your living room watching your 80-inch TV with 1.8 million channels, right? If you hear this on the door, what do? You get on the ground. Right? You get on the ground, you tell Alexa to turn the lights off. You tell little Johnny, hey, little Johnny, get your phone. Put this on TikTok. Call the cops or something, right? You don't just surprise show up at somebody's house nowadays. What do? You call. Or you text them. Yeah. Hey, I just thought I'd swing by. I'm in your driveway right now, okay? Well, you don't just surprise show up at someone's house, okay? You do that to the wrong boomer, you might not have another birthday, you know what I'm saying? And listen, I tell you that because it's crazy how much the world is changing, right? We used to sit in our house and watch This Old House and welcome people into our house, but nowadays, we got security systems. We got video doorbells. We have killer chihuahuas named Cujo. I'm afraid to pull up into my own house sometimes. I don't even know what's... But I was thinking about that this week because back in Jesus' day, the church welcomed people in like we used to welcome people in our houses back in the day. And by the way, Jesus started the whole church thing like this. This was Jesus' idea. And Jesus started the church to change the world. But somewhere along the way, some churches moved from trying to change the world to wanting to condemn the world. To turn into hey, come on in, welcome, come on in. To what'd you do this week? You better stay out there. Okay, we got Cujo in here. We got a security guy named Butch. He'll get you. And listen, at Bay Shore, I just want you to know, we are not here to condemn the world. We want to welcome everybody in here like Jesus did because we believe one encounter with Jesus changes everything. We believe one encounter with Jesus here changes everything. And who's been changed by Jesus in this place? Would you just mind raise your hand if you have been changed in some way? Just keep your hands up and look around. Look around. Look at this. I'm telling you, one encounter with Jesus changes everything. But that can't happen if somebody's not welcome in here. And so today, we're going to be wrapping up the series that we've been in called The Table. And today, I just want to give you 5 characteristics that I want for all of us at Bay Shore. And I forced the first letter of all these characteristics to spell the word table. I think that's called an acrostic. Is that what that is? Yeah, I don't know. I got the lowest SAT in the history of the world, so I have no idea. But I do know what a T is, so let's just start there. So let's start with T, and we'll put this on the screen. Let's talk about transparency. All right, nope, there it is. Boom, you saw the rest of them. Just forget it. Hey, speaking of transparency, when I was a kid growing up, I had a drug problem. Now, some of you may be surprised because I'm a preacher's kid and all, but it's true. Growing up, I had a drug problem because my parents they drugged me to church on Sunday and Monday and Tuesday. And anybody else have a drug problem? Just drugged to church all the time. Listen, I was in church so much as a kid. My dad would probably listen to this. Sorry, Dad, if you're going to hear this. But I used to be in church so much as a kid. I used to sneak out of the church service while my dad was preaching. And I'd sneak out, me and my buddy Jonah Lathberry, and at our Millsboro campus, we would go behind the church because we had a Coke machine. And Jonah taught me how to get my little skinny preacher's kid arm up into the Coke machine to steal Coca-Cola Classics, baby. So I would be stealing Cokes during church that I was skipping behind the church, okay? This is your pastor, people. I was like a church criminal is what I was. And speaking of being a church criminal, does anybody remember back in the 80s when it was like a crime to celebrate Halloween or go trick-or-treating? You guys remember that? Like at the church, it was like a crime. But back in the 80s in the church, if you don't know, if you weren't part of the church, you did not go trick-or-treating. It was off limits, okay? You went trick-or-treating, you couldn't do it. Now, you could go to a church harvest party. Oh, come on now. You could dress up like the three wise men, go to the harvest party. Praise the Lord. But if you wanted to go trick-or-treating dressed up as Clifford the Big Red Dog, you were Clifford the Big Red Sinner. That's what you were. So I never went trick-or-treating when I was a kid. I never went trick-or-treating when I was a kid. And then after we had my daughter, Nora, one day, my wife, she was like, I think we need to dress Nora up like a mouse and we need to go trick-or-treating. I'm like, we are not going to let the devil up in this house. Come here, baby. Let me pray for you. Okay. She's like, no. I just want to dress her up I just want her to get some nerds. I'm like, that's how it starts. Next thing you know, she's going to be stealing Coke machines from the church. Okay. It's a slippery slope, babe. Anyway, Stacy convinced me. And so this was Nora's very first Halloween costume picture. She's dressed as a little mouse. Isn't she cute? This is cute. If you just thought she looked cute, you also have invited the devil into your house, okay? But Nora dressed up. She's next to her cousin, Willow, in a costume. And this is the first night I ever went trick-or-treating. I was 33 years old. And Stacy even dressed up this night. Stacy tried to get me to dress up. I'm like, I am not ready to be Clifford the Big Red Sinner, okay? Just one step at a time. Baby steps, babe. But I was thinking about that this week because back in the day, the church used to condemn you for celebrating Halloween. But most churches today, it's Halloween every Sunday. Because people walk in wearing a costume pretending to be somebody they're not. That's called a church burn. Burn. But it's true. Most churches today, it's Halloween every Sunday. People walk in a costume and pretend to be somebody they're not. And listen, the church is the only place I know where you can pretend like you're the devil all week, or you can live like the devil all week and walk into church and act like you're Jesus. Isn't that true? And at Bay Shore, I just want you to know, we believe that there's a man named Jesus, and you're not him. So turn to the person next to you, if you know them, and say, you look more like Clifford the Big Red Sinner than Jesus. Oh, so listen, nobody here is Jesus. I used to think Miss Patsy was, okay? But I'm not, no, she's not. But, I'm still not sure. Anyway, but nobody has to pretend like you're Jesus here. And everybody is welcome in this place without a costume on. It doesn't matter what you've done, what your past looks like. You can even have a cat. You can be a cat person. We will welcome you in. Where are the cat people at? See? We let them in here. See? No, listen, at Bay Shore, everybody is welcome here. You can leave your costume at the door with Butch. You can just walk on in here. And that's important because transparency is your best path to transformation. Being transparent is your best pathway to being transformed. Now, I'm going to be the first one in the room to say, I don't like to be transparent. We don't like to be transparent. All right. And by the way, could you imagine if we were all completely transparent at church? Could you imagine what that would be like? During the shake hands time that we did earlier, you stand up and you hi, Sister Susie. How was your week? Not good. Not good. I drank so much at Thanksgiving, I passed out right in the sweet taters. Still got some in my hair, actually. Oh, yeah, so I spent all my tithe money over there at the New Agave. Bought 17 margaritas. Passed out on their chips and salsa. So, you want a nacho? Okay, like, if you do that, the person you're talking to, they'll be like, I'm going to sit over here now, okay? I'm going to move away from you. But, that might be a little too transparent for the shake hands time. But listen. But we don't want to be transparent. I don't want to be transparent. And here's why. Because out there, transparency gets us kicked out. But in here, transparency is your best path to transformation. And so Jesus, when he started the church, he wanted it to be a place where it's okay to not be okay. But he's the solution so that you don't have to stay that way. I'll explain it like this. My dog Eli is 13 years old. He's a boomer. And I took a picture of old Boomer this week. Here's Eli right here. He's getting old. You see the gray? There's some Just for Men right there in there. He's getting old, but he's a pretty cute little guy, right? He's still cute. By the way, cat people, I know you're judging me because I dress my dog. But I do dress my dog. And the reason I dress my dog is cold 100% of the time. It could be 110 degrees in the middle of July. And Eli is shivering like a naked Eskimo in an igloo. I don't know. He's just all the time. Doesn't matter. He's always cold. So I dress my dog. Now, in the winter, I get cold at around 8 o'clock at night. And so I have this routine. At 8, I sit on my couch and I get my Baltimore Ravens blanket. Praise the Lord. And I get in my spot on the couch and I pull my Baltimore Ravens blanket up on me. And as soon as I get on the couch with my blanket on, this is what I start hearing on the floor. And that's Eli, okay, because he's not had a manicure or pedicure lately, okay? So he's running over, and I'll bring Eli up onto the couch with me. And Eli, he's shivering. And what Eli always does is he'll go to the edge of my Baltimore Ravens blanket, and he'll put his nose on it, and he'll go like this. So what's he doing? Number one, he's telling me he's a Ravens fan. I'm like, yes, you are. But he wants to get under the blanket. And so, my dog weighs 7 pounds, so it's a little heavy for him. So I'll lift the edge of the blanket up for him to go in, and he'll look under the blanket, and he'll look at me. And then he won't go in. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to hold the blanket up all day. I'll put the blanket down. And then he'll go right up to the edge of it, and he'll do this again. And so I'll lift up the edge of the blanket again, and he'll look at it, and he'll look at me. I can't go under there, Dad. I'm afraid to go under there. And so I'll be like, bro, go under my blanket. You are shivering, Boomer. Get in there. Does anybody else talk to your dog? I have full conversations. He knows what I'm talking about. I'm get in there, buddy. You can do it. You're cold. But Eli is afraid. Eli is afraid of the very thing. If he would just get under it, it would help him. And that's exactly what transparency is. Sometimes we're afraid of the very thing. If we would just get under it, it would help us. Okay, and if you're new to Bay Shore, just so you know, I tell you all my problems right up here. It's all out there. Okay, I talk to you about. It's a wonder you all still come to church here, to be honest. All right. I tell you about fighting with my wife in the attic. We had another one of those on Thanksgiving Day. Anyway. It's my fault. It always is. Okay, so anyway. So I tell you about the family fights and my road rage issues on Route 24. A lot of you know that I was depressed for 2 years. I've told you all that. I have panic attacks sometimes. I actually have had a panic attack in this building. Kind of funny story with that. Back a couple years ago when Bo and I were the only people on staff, Bo called me one day, and he's like, man, I'm really struggling. And he told me everything was going on. And he was like, I'm having a panic attack. And so I was like, man, all right. So we talked about that. And he explained kind of what was happening to him. A few weeks later, I was going through a lot in my life at the same time. And I was in this room on a Thursday, and I was working through one of my messages, and all of a sudden my heart started racing. I started getting short of breath. I couldn't think straight. I didn't know what was going on with me. And so I called Bo, and I couldn't put a sentence together. And Bo was like, I was telling him everything that's going on, and it wasn't making any sense. And he's like, you're having a panic attack, bro. I was like, I am. It feels like a panic attack. It doesn't even feel good. And so I was like having a panic attack. And at that point, it was like me and Bo were the only people on staff, which meant 100% of our church staff was kind of crazy. So we hired Cotter to make us less crazy. I don't know. And, you know, I've had people say, like, you can't tell people this stuff in church. Like you look weak. Listen, I think one of the strongest things that you can do is share your weaknesses. And that's one of the reasons I'm really so proud of my friend Sean in the back, who started Celebrate Recovery, which is going on Thursday nights. Who's been to Celebrate Recovery? Anybody been to it? It's so good. It's so good. And so the first night that Sean led Celebrate Recovery earlier in November, I came, I took this shot of you. I'm sorry, Sean, but this is you, man, while you're like in your action preaching mode. And I was so proud because Sean stood right here for 30 minutes as a leader in our church. And Sean was like, you know, guys, for years, I was addicted to drugs. I was addicted to alcohol. He said, I used to like come to church and I would get dope sick in the bathroom during your message, Joel. And he shared that, and he was like, I was an absent dad, I was a, bad husband, and, Sean was he was like, I was an atheist twice. Sean's the only person I know who was an atheist twice. But Sean stood up here and said, 4.5 years ago, Jesus got a hold of me, and I've been clean for 4.5 years, and all I want to do is introduce you all to Jesus. Like, that is what it's all about. That is what it's all about. And so listen, at Bay Shore, you don't have to walk in here with a costume on. You can leave your costumes at the door. We're all about transparency here. And listen, if you're not okay today, I really want you to hear this from me. I am so glad you're here. I really am. This is a judgment-free zone. We just want to connect you to Jesus because we believe one encounter with Jesus changes everything. Changes everything. So the first thing is transparency. I went way long on this one. The next 4 will be short. Okay. So the next one is available. Available. All right. Now let me go back to the over 40s, under 40s. All right. Over 40s, under 40s. Now, if you're on the bubble, kind of like me, like I'm near it, I'm going to upgrade you for this one. You're going to be a boomer. All right. So if you're mid-30s or up, you're coming up to the 40s. Okay. You're a boomer. You guys good? You in? Okay, so if you are near boomer or more, you might remember back in the day in your house if you have one of these. Can we put this picture up, Jess? There it is. Who had one of these in your house back in the day? Oh, yeah. Anybody remember your landline number, your first landline number? You remember it?
239.
All right, wait. Let's all say our landline numbers together on 3 out loud if you remember. All right, 1, 2, 3. 934-9011. Woo! Somebody's like single and like, hey, cute girl, what was that again? I'm going to write that down. I want to see if it's still in service. No, but back in the day when we had one of these phones, all right, when the phone rang, there was only one number for the whole family. One number for the whole family. All right, I don't know how we survived this, okay? So when the phone rang, here's a video of what happened in your house when the phone rang. This is what happened. Isn't that true? Isn't that what it was like? And inevitably, your sibling would get to the phone first and they'd answer it, and then they'd be like, it's for me. Right? And so what did you do? What you did was you would go into the back bedroom. See what that conversation is all about, right? So anyway, we had those, and then eventually we upgraded. Some of you will remember this, and we got these. Who had a beeper? Wow. Anybody still have a beeper? Yeah, you're embarrassed to raise your hand. Somebody here has one. Okay. And so we had, a beeper. Is it a cell phone? Somebody said a cell phone? Oh, maybe, yeah, more or less. Text message receiving machine. Okay. So we went from the corded phone to the beeper. And but nowadays, like when someone calls me, my watch starts ringing. My phone rings, my tablet, everything starts ringing now. And so we're like all available. I don't know if you've ever been having like a serious conversation with somebody and you're like pouring your heart out to them and you're like in the middle of it and they're listening like, okay. Oh, wait. Just 1 second. I got a message. My prescription's done. It's ready. Oh, wait. You were saying something important. Just go ahead. Go ahead. Got another notification. Oh, my cat walked in front of my doorbell camera. You know? And so like then they're like, okay, I'll put it on vibrate. Just tell me what's going on. And then the table starts vibrating, right? And what do they do? Like, let me check this right. Isn't it true that in 2021 we are so available? We are so available. And I wonder if we were as available to Jesus as we are our devices, what would happen? And I'm talking to myself on this too. And some of you might say, well, you know, Jesus doesn't want my availability because I don't have any ability. You know, like I don't think Jesus can use me because I'm not very Jesus-y, Pastor Joel. But listen, do you know that availability matters way more to God than ability? Your availability matters way more to God than your ability. Okay, if you look in the Bible, listen, Moses didn't have ability. He had availability. Peter didn't have ability. He had availability. In fact, every Bible hero you plug into that formula didn't have ability. They had availability. And I'll keep on, bragging on my friend Sean. I remember 4.5 years ago, Sean was 3 days out of rehab. And so we went and celebrated. We went to the neighborhood grill. We went to Applebee's, baby. And so we were at Applebee's 3 days after Sean got out of rehab. We were eating quesadilla burgers, which I'll admit, that's a weird combo, even for Applebee's. But we were eating quesadilla burgers. And as I'm talking to Sean, I felt like God was telling me, like, Sean is going to lead a recovery group at Bay Shore. And have you ever talked back to God? Mm-hmm. I know you won't admit it, but sometimes I'm like, God, are you crazy? Like, my man is 3 days out of rehab. Like, when we're eating quesadilla burgers, this does not make any sense. But I felt like God kept on saying, like, Joel, Sean is going to lead a recovery group at Bay Shore. So I was like, okay, I'll tell him. So I told Sean, I was like, hey, man, I think you're going to lead a recovery group at Bay Shore one day. And I'll never forget Sean's face. Sean looked at me like, like he was like looking at me like, you need to go to rehab, Pastor Joel? Like, I don't. But Sean, I'll never forget, he said, if my story can help one person, I'll do anything Jesus wants me to do. And now, 4.5 years later, Sean starts Celebrate Recovery. He's leading 20 people in a recovery group. And Sean, last week, led his first person to Jesus. And so, which means if you want to know what God wants for your life, go to Applebee's and eat a quesadilla burger. I'll tell you. But Sean, it wasn't about his ability. He just said, listen, I'm available. I'll do it. And so my question to you is, are you available to Jesus? Are you willing to be available? Are you available at work for him? Are you available when you're out with your football watching buddies or, with your time or your money or your whatever? Like, are you available to Jesus? And you might say, well, Joel, do you have any way I can be available here for Jesus? Man, I'm glad you asked that question. We could use about 20 of y'all to serve in Bay Shore kids. We got all kinds of availability back there. But listen, we'll give you a T-shirt today or a quesadilla, but we'll give you anything. I don't know. But speaking of available people, there's about 30 volunteers that are available today that are serving to make today possible. And so we can't do church without our volunteers. So thankful for all of you who are available to do that. And so listen, just ask yourself that question. Am I available to Jesus? Because he doesn't need your ability. He needs your availability. Here's the next thing, is B, becoming. So speaking of quesadilla burgers, anybody remember the first time you ever went to the gym? Anybody remember that? Yeah? Some of you remember. The very first time I went to the gym, it was 14 years ago. Stacey and I had just gotten back from a honeymoon. And the reason I went to the gym is because we went to Jamaica. And I had a lot of jerk chicken sandwiches, Mom. A lot, okay? And when we got home, Stacey looked at me and she's like, what happened to you, Mon? I'm like, I'd say I'm going to the gym, okay? Because I just ate so much down there. And so I went to World Gym in Millsboro 14 years ago. First time I'd ever been into a gym. I didn't know how the gym worked at all, okay? So I didn't know how to use equipment. So I just went in there. I just started like looking at people while they're using equipment, like, which I would not recommend, all right? You'll be lifting weights in prison is what you'll be doing. But I didn't know how any of the equipment worked, okay? I didn't even know you were supposed to wipe down your equipment after you used it, which I learned that real quick. Because there was a little old lady in there. First time I ever went to the gym, she was carrying around a little purse. And she saw me not wipe equipment down. And listen, she ripped me apart. Okay, I think her name was Karen. She went way Karen on me. Okay, so anyway. But I didn't know how to work out at all. So I just started going to the gym, and I learned how to work out and go to the gym, okay? Which, by the way, you can probably notice from these arms. That can fit inside of a Coke machine, okay? But listen, you don't just wake up one day and say, I've watched 10 YouTube videos on how to look like Chris Hemsworth. And so now I declare I am Thor. I am so... Because I know, I've watched the videos, I know how to... Like, is that how you become a workout person? No, like you got to become a workout person, okay? It takes time to become a workout person, okay? You can't just know about it, you got to actually do it. And so I was thinking about that, and here's my point. Knowing about being a Jesus follower and becoming more like Jesus are two totally different things. Aren't they? Knowing about being a Jesus follower and becoming more like Jesus are two totally different things. Like, have you ever met somebody who has the whole Bible memorized and they put like a verse of the day up on Facebook? And they know all the Chris Tomlin songs, and they eat Chick-fil-A because it's their religious duty. You know, and they have like a bumper sticker that says, Jesus is my co-pilot. Like, have you ever met somebody like this, but they're meaner than a wet cat? You ever met this person? No, don't point at each other, okay? But like, look, knowing about being a Jesus follower and becoming more like Jesus are two totally different things. And like you might say, well, how do I know if I'm becoming more like Jesus? Well, this is what Jesus said. It's in John 13:35. Jesus said, your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples, which means you can eat Christian chicken. And you can eat all the Chris Tomlin songs. And you can memorize second hesitations. It's not even a Bible book, okay? So, just testing y'all. Anyway, but you can do all that, but if you're still meaner than a wet cat, you are not becoming more like Jesus. And listen, I don't know about you, but I don't want to love people who are meaner than a wet cat. Because I know some wet cats. Anybody here? Anybody know some of them? Yes. Some of you had Thanksgiving with them on Thursday, didn't you? Well, we don't want to love people like that, but I do want to become more like Jesus. And Jesus said, your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples. And if we love like this, you know what would happen? We couldn't have a building big enough to fit all the people who will come to church. We could have the Walmart, and we would run out of space. And I want the Walmart. So listen, turn to the person next to you and say, don't be meaner than a wet cat. So we gotta become more like Jesus. All right, next one is this, L, letting go of limitations. Now, I have a theory, and my theory is that the biggest limiting factor in my life are the limits I put on myself. The biggest limiting factor in my life are the limits I put on myself. Now, I think this is probably just for me. I'm probably the only one, but I could give you a test to see if you limit yourself too. You want to take a test? In the back, you guys want to take a test? Miss Patsy? You in? Okay. You guys in? You want to take a test? Okay. All right. If you're right-handed, give me a little wave. Okay. Oh, hi, guys. If you're left-handed, you're artsy, give me another wave over here. Okay. If you're sleeping right now, don't do anything. Perfect. Right in. Okay. All right. So I want you to take your strong hand, whichever hand you just waved, and I want you to make a fist, and I want you to squeeze it as tight as you can, and don't let Butch outdo you. Come on, squeeze as tight as you can. All right, now, squeeze it tighter. Now, dig deep, squeeze it tighter. All right, last time, just imagine that you just found out that the wait at Agave is 5 hours long, and squeeze it as hard as you can. Okay, you can stop, squeeze it. How many of you tried to squeeze as hard as you can when I first said squeeze as hard as you can? How many did that? Then how many of you ended up squeezing it harder? Come on, raise your hand if you end up squeezing harder. Look at this. I'm telling you, sometimes the biggest limiting factor in our life are the limits that we put on ourselves and the limits that we let other people put on us. Well, let me give you an example of both. Those of you who really know me know that I am an introvert, except when I'm in this building. Now, some of you don't even believe that because you think I look like a Red Bull commercial or something, okay? But I'm telling you, if I see you over at the Giant and I recognize you, I may put my head in the tomatoes because I won't know what to say. Because I am an introvert outside of this building. And so I never wanted to be a preacher. And so I went to school for business. I actually got my MBA. And the reason I got that is because I thought I could sit in an office and look at spreadsheets all day long and sometimes do like a YouTube search for like introvert support groups, okay? Like, I thought that would be like the perfect life, all right? And then I started working at the church, but I was the business guy at the church. So I got to sit in my office, work on my spreadsheets. And then our church asked me to do the announcements one Sunday. And I was like, okay, I'll pray about it. Nope, he said no. True story. I wouldn't do the announcements for years. And then one day they didn't ask me to do the announcements. They told me to do the announcements. And my wife was there. She can tell you, it was so bad. As soon as I got done doing the announcements, I stepped off the stage. And there was this guy who still goes to our Millsboro campus. He came right up to me and he said, "Nice try." It's like, thank you, I think. I don't know. But if I let that guy influence me, if I let my own introvertness, if that's a word, influence myself, I wouldn't be standing on the stage today. And I tell you that because if God can blow the lid off of my limitations, he can blow the lid off of your limitations. And I don't know what ways you have limited yourself. I don't know what ways other people have limited you, but you have no idea. You have no idea what God can do through you when you let go of your limitations. You know, it made me think about Kristen Cordray this week. Kristen's our Bay Shore Kids director. A lot of you guys know Kristen. But Kristen's story is when she was a teenager, she made a mistake in her life, and the church she grew up in basically kicked her out. Just said, "You're not really welcome here." And Kristen, years later, still decided to give our church a shot. So she walked in our church, and she could have said, well, you know, like, I probably don't belong in a church because that's what happened in the other church, okay? She could have said, like, my past is, like, shaping my future. I'm just kind of, like, giving up on all this. But Kristen didn't do that. She didn't limit herself. She came into church, and she sat in the very back there, kind of where Miss Patsy's sitting, and she kept coming. And she kept coming. And one day, I had the honor of baptizing Kristen. I think we have her baptism picture. I baptized Kristen right here. And now, today, Kristen is our Bay Shore Kids director. And who has been impacted positively by Kristen Cordray? Anybody? She's amazing. And again, let me ask this. Who's been impacted positively by Kristen? Yeah, look at this. And she didn't limit herself. And God blew the lid off of that. And her husband, Mike, wouldn't come to church with her at first. And now, Mike, it helps lead our Celebrate Recovery program. And so, like, God, well, you have no idea what God can do through you when you just let go of your limitations. And so whatever way you are limiting yourself or the way somebody else is limiting you, I'm telling you, God can blow the lid off of that. And I don't want to move past this without saying, kind of thinking about Kristen's story. Listen, you are not your past. You are not your biggest mistake. You are not your most embarrassing moment. You aren't what somebody said to you or what some church did to you. You are God's, which means there is no limit to what he can do in your life. There's no limit. There's no limit. All right, last one is this. Expectation. Now, how many of you have ever lost your keys? Lost your keys? Some are like, I don't know where my keys are right now. Anybody here ever lost your kid? Anybody lost a kid? Yeah, I think some of you leave your kids here intentionally after church so they can stay with me. Anyway, I lose my keys and my kids all the time. I always am losing my keys. Actually, this is true. I don't even know where my keys are right now. No idea. If you're really wanting a 2007 Honda Civic with the check engine lights on, you could find my keys and steal my car. I'll maybe get $100 from an insurance company, which will be a win for me. But I always lose my keys, and so I have this like hook thingy on my keys, and I hook my keys right here most of the time. Now, I don't have them on me when I'm preaching because I want to be free. I want to be able to move. I want to be able to church kick somebody as they rush the stage or whatever. Like, I want to be able to be free, so I don't have it on me right now. And so after church, I'll go looking for my keys. And so a few months ago, I went looking for my keys after church. I could not find my keys anywhere. I'm out here in the lobby. I'm looking under things. I'm looking in things. I come in here. I'm looking under the seats. I go in the back room. We have a back room back here. I'm looking in that back room. I'm looking in the ladies' restroom. I'm like, I don't know, maybe, I'm looking everywhere. I could not find my keys. And I'm out in the lobby. It's been like 20 minutes. I could not get home because I could not find my keys. And I turned real quick in my search process, and I heard this like, jingle, jingle, jingle.
Oh, no.
No lie. I looked down, and my keys were hooked right here. That is 100% true, all right? Lowest SAT score in the room. I'm telling you. My keys were... I had what I needed to get home on me the whole time. And I tell you that because I just want to remind somebody that when you have Jesus with you, you have everything you need to get to where you need to go. You have everything you need to get to where you need to go. I forget that all the time. We forget that all the time. All right, I don't expect God to do great things. But how many of you know that our God is great? You know that? Our God is great. And if our God is great, we can expect that he is going to do great things. In fact, I want Bay Shore to be a place like when you pull into our parking lot. Well, when you pull in the Giants parking lot, let's be honest, okay? When you pull into a parking lot, wherever it is, okay? I want when you're pulling into the parking lot to be like, I'm expecting God to do amazing things today in church. I'm expecting someone to get saved. I'm expecting for somebody's life to be changed. I'm expecting for amazing things to happen in the basement today. And I don't want you to just think it like generically. I want you to be like, I'm expecting God to change me today. I'm expecting God to do something big in me today. I'm expecting big things to happen in my life in the basement today. And I just want to just give you a report. God is doing great things in this basement. In the last 3 weeks, 25 people have started a relationship with Jesus in the basement. In the last 3 weeks. It's amazing. In the last 2 months, 20 people have been baptized right here. And you guys, listen, Connor gave you the not match number. All right, with the match, you guys have given $130,000 to go above ground in 2 months. 130, come on, Walmart. Or wherever, I don't know. And in the last couple months, we started to celebrate recovery. The place is packed. You guys can't even find a parking spot. The parking's so bad, Buffalo Wild Wings keeps on calling us every Sunday, like our staff and our customers don't know where to park. That's true. I'm like, well, if you give us $1 million, we'll leave. Okay, we'll get out of here. We'll be out of your hair, I promise. But listen, I want you to expect great things to happen here because great things are happening here. And I don't know what your expectations are. I don't know what you've lost. Okay, maybe you lost some keys. But maybe you've lost a relationship or you've lost your reputation or you've lost, your marbles. Hello, me. I don't know what you lost, but I do know that when you have God, you can expect that the best is still ahead in your life. The best is still ahead in our church. And the reason I say that is because Jesus started the church 2,000 years ago, not to condemn the world, but to change the world. And it's working. And you know the reason we know it's working? Because you're sitting in church 2,000 years later. And if Jesus can use the church to change the world, he can use the church to change your life. He can use the church to change Rehoboth Beach. And if Jesus can change the world, he can change our church. And how does that happen? How does that happen? By us becoming table people. By being transparent and available. And becoming more like Jesus. By loving others. By letting go of our limitations. And expecting that the best is still ahead. And so my question for you is this. Who wants to be a table person? Anybody want to be a table person? Turn to the person next to you and say, you're a table person. Turn back to him and say, you're also Clifford the Big Right Sinner. Well, let me pray for you guys. Jesus, I'm so thankful that you accept us and you were available to us. And you were transparent when you came here and you told us that you were the Son of God. And it really changed everything. It split history in half and just changed everything. And so, God, I just pray that we'll be these types of people when we walk out of here. We don't have to walk in here with a costume on and pretend to be something that we're not. We can be transparent because you love us and accept us as we are, but one encounter with you changes everything. And so, God, I pray that we'll know that you're accepting us, but God, I pray that we'll be open to the changes you're making in our life. And I just pray that we'll be people that invite people in, and we're people that know that the church is a place that good things happen. And God, I just pray that you'll continue to do amazing things in us here. And we just love you so much, Jesus. In your name, amen.